we could, well, if you want to, we can switch it off and simulate it if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah, so if you had a, I'll stand this side. So if you had a power cut situation, then this would switch.
Hey folks, welcome back. It's a big barn build. Today it's time to go through all of our solar install and explain everything that went on behind the scenes over the past month or so. Plus we've got some figures because we've also been using it and exporting stuff for the past 4 weeks or so. So stick around and we'll explain all. Okay, it's our final day of the solar install and we're in just about the only shady spot of the farm at the moment. We'll have a quick run through because I don't know if we showed too much of this. We showed a little bit of it going in, but maybe if you can like talk through why we've got 2 batteries, size of inverters, any decisions so I don't get it wrong.
Yeah, so,
I tried to explain it.
So you've got 30 kilowatts of peak capacity on panels. You may get that midday because you've got an east-west split. So yes, you've got 40 kilowatts of generation. The decision behind that was, one is because you are running like quite a lot of buildings, could have a lot of peak load, heaters for chickens and things like that. We wanted to be able to cope with the peak demand when you needed it with the battery storage. So we went for 220s making 40 kilowatts, and then also you've got a little bit of scope to maybe add some more panels in the future into these inverters, and you don't have to buy any more hardware. So say in the winter you do realise that amount of panels isn't covering it because your load is going up a lot, then you could potentially look at another roof and you would be able to put the panels straight in within reason with
because we can overload them.
Yes, you can
anyway.
oversize by 200%. So potentially you could put 40 kilowatt into each inverter. Because they will oversize. So you've got a lot of scope left, but also the discharge when you need the power, you've got it. With the 2 9 kilowatt batteries on each inverter, that was more to try and keep you off peak electricity in the winter without knowing your full running because the house isn't built yet. It was a bit of made assumptions on load and how much like heat pump's going to run in the winter and how much your farm's going to run.
And we think as far as upgrading, we think we can comfortably get 1 more battery on each stack.
Yeah, you could get another 9 kilowatt battery on each stack.
And had it not been for the height of this roof, you can add more than that normally.
You can go up to, I think it's 5 batteries on each inverter if you really want to. Yeah, so the footprint doesn't change, just it goes upwards. Okay.
And then explain a little bit, like obviously this is just the kind of bits behind the scenes, but these are to isolate.
Yeah, so these isolate the AC to each inverter. So if someone wanted to work on it, they can safely isolate the AC. That goes, it goes in and out of the inverter. So, and then if they're going to work on this consumer unit, they could also turn the supply off. So because they've got power coming in from your grid this way, but also power in from the inverters that way, to fully work on this board safely, they'd have to turn the power off from the grid and then the power coming off from the inverters.
Okay, yeah. And that's also because we've got that switch over, so if the power goes down, it still makes it live, so we've made sure that we've got signage on other consumer units just in case an electrician didn't know.
So you've got backup, so if you have a grid outage, so you can keep running as long as you've got enough batteries left in your stack, which at this time of year you've got loads. And then the isolators at the bottom are your DC strings. So these are, 2 will be your east roof, 2 will be your west roof, and so it's wired into 4 strings at the moment. This is so another thing is you can isolate each strings individually. The inverters do have a DC isolator built in, but say in the future you do have an issue with a string, you could just isolate that one string with the issue and keep the rest of it running with just that one string down. So it's a little bit belt and braces, but you could also isolate them strings to work on that kit, but it just splits it out a lot easier for future.
Okay.
And then the box next to it is the where the Tygo CCA is, which does the connects to your internet and tells you what each individual panel's doing.
So today is just the Tygos, which are the optimizers, and we'll touch on that first because a few people were asking why we had them. One is that this great big barn here, how much of that shades? I mean, even this time of year it was shading.
Yeah, it was shading about a third of it in the very early morning.
Yeah, which this time of year it soon goes, but I wonder. I mean, we could look at the modelling on that, but I'm sure it did shade quite a bit of that.
So that was the reason why we started looking into them, and then why we did the whole job was just for individual panel optimization, especially for the amount of panels you've got. If you have a faulty panel or one goes down or it gets covered with a lot of stuff and you don't notice it, with the monitoring app you'll be able to see like exactly what panel's not working. So even though the system would look like it would be generating, because the amount of panels you got, you'd probably think, oh, it's working, but you could have one string really down. But with the Tygos, it will tell you exactly what panel isn't generating as much as the others, so you could replace it or look at
see why.
Why. So that was, if you had less panels, it probably wouldn't be as much of a issue, but because you've got a lot of panels, trying to find one. So
this time of year, we were talking about that earlier, this time of year, because there's so many panels and we're generating more than we can use, we could actually, without knowing, if 2 whole strings went down, we probably wouldn't even spot, would we?
No, because your export limit.
Because we've met our export limit and our battery's fully charged, and so but then obviously in the winter we'd probably notice more so. We're not going to go on the roof now because it is basically 80 degrees on the surface of the roof. I don't know, we should probably take a probe up there. But obviously if you've seen the previous videos, we've got 30 on each side, give or take. 30 panels, 30 and 32. Yeah. So they seem to be, we've been looking at the app this morning, and certainly at the peak demand that we've got at the moment, they're kind of producing, they're both producing 50-50 sort of middle part of the day. I'm hoping that kind of works in our favour anyway, having east-west, because I guess I'm not sure how it works, but if you're all south, can be a negative sometimes, or depends on the pitch of the roof. Yeah,
you would get more hours out of that set of panels, but the benefit of an east-west is you've got usually more roof space, you could get more panels on, and then you get the earlier sun and then you get the later sun, so you do get a longer generation time. You don't get as good sort of peak generation from it, but the hours are spread out, and the amount of panels you've got, you've got plenty.
Recovered. Right, there's one little bit I thought, if we can we just explain the gateway bit, because that's the bit I haven't got a clue how it works. So I thought, well, we're here. Right, now you find us in the kind of older part, but this is the bit we couldn't do much about. This is where our grid connection comes in, 3-phase. Some of this is when we moved here, got put in new, but we really wanted to, as best as possible, make everything a bit more future-proof. So we mounted a new board over here so that the guys could fit the gateway, which we'll talk about now, but also we had to get a smart meter finally put in here. This is, well, you're probably better off telling me, but that's the gateway which works alongside the batteries and the inverter, right?
Yeah, so this is the gateway. So this has a communication to the inverters, so this knows what they're doing, but it also tells the inverters what the grid's doing. So it monitors each phase individually, and then tries to keep you off grid like a normal inverter would do. But then the benefit that this has got is it's got big contactors inside, so when you lose grid connection, and the company says less than 0 milliseconds, your backup will kick in and you will stay working, but in an off-grid situation.
And it doesn't affect, like, you won't even notice like timers resetting on devices.
No, your internet should stay on, everything should have a smooth.
Okay. Right, excuse the noisy tractor outside. We were talking about the smart port, so I noticed on here that it says smart port and there's some lights that we don't get, but I think that is something else.
Yeah, so it's got a few functionalities of smart port. For like you could have a generator, and you'd wire the generator into the smart port connection, and then you could tell this that it's got a generator, and you take a wire to the generator. So what it would do is, in a backup situation, if your batteries were running low, it could turn the generator on, to then charge your batteries or keep you off grid as long as you need. And then when you have got enough battery, it would then turn the generator back off again, and you'd carry on using solar.
So for us, that would have to be a proper big 3-phase generator.
It would have to be a 3-phase generator that would be able to keep up with it. You can also run like a load off the smart port. So some people might connect like a heat pump or something into the smart port, and then the idea of that is it monitors it all the time, but also you can tell it to turn that off in a off-grid situation. So say you're running out of power, it would switch that off at, say, a 20% battery, so you could keep running with something else. So whatever you wired into that, it would turn it off at a level so your batteries don't drain and you have run out of power. So it's a bit more of
prioritise it.
Prioritise something else.
I did notice that on the app we seem to be always using a bit of grid, even though we don't need to. Does it leak through?
There is a tiny...
It's like 0.01 and it keeps adding up, and I'm like, oh, we used 1 kilowatt today, and I feel like we didn't need to. But obviously the only way to avoid that is to set it to off-grid.
Yes, there is a tiny little bit of thing. So when loads turn on and off, the inverter has to react to that grid changing. So when you turn something on, like with a heating element, the grid will take that load straight away, and then the inverter will then try and play catch up. So it's just the grid's going up. This is seeing that. Then the inverters are reacting to kick in, and then it's then dropping back down again. So then it's just as things are changing, it's constant like that.
Because I was seeing batteries full, by mid-morning, but we were always using a little bit of grid, and I don't think they ever depleted enough to be needing the grid.
No, so it's just like it's with yours, like you might have exported 80 kilowatts, but you've used 1 kilowatt of grid. It's just when things are changing, then it's just the reaction time from the inverter.
Okay.
So say you lost grid connection, you would carry on running. So say like if you want, we can switch it off and simulate it if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah. So if you had I'll stand this side. So if you had a power cut situation, then this would switch, and then you should hear a click on there. So now the grid light's gone. You haven't got grid. The inverters are still powering, so everything else is now running. There's not much in this barn to actually see that it's running. But then what that's done is, so that's the switch. So that contact that clicked has disconnected you from the grid electrically. So even if you touched this will all be dead because it's switched it off that way.
Yeah.
So if someone comes to work on this equipment, this is not backfeeding because it's disconnected from the grid. And then when we turn back on again, it won't switch automatically. So what it'll do is it will monitor the grid, it'll make sure it's stable, and then once it's happy, stable, and then the phases are still, like the phases are aligned and the frequencies aligned, then it will then switch back across.
Okay.
So we've now got a light saying there's grid available.
Yeah.
But it hasn't clicked. And then when it clicks, that's when it's happy that the grid is stable, and because what they don't want is the grid to come on, the grid to go off.
And it was intermittent.
And it keep intermittent. So what it does is it will then wait, and then it will determine when it's happy, and then when it's happy, it will then click back in, and then it will allow the grid connection.
So my phone would have gone, if it had dropped at all, my phone would have gone off to say the cameras are dead and the internet's dropped out, and obviously that hasn't gone off, so so it didn't affect anything.
No, so it didn't get anything. You would have probably, there it is.
Okay.
You would have probably got a push notification from the app to tell you there was a power cut. So then you can
go on grid. So my home is off grid, and then my home is on grid. 1 minute. Very good.
So that just gives you, if you were in your house and it happened, you wouldn't know about it because it's seamless.
Yeah.
So that push notification, you might just go, oh, let me look how much battery I've got, what I'm doing, because I might be able to reduce what I'm using in case that is off for 8-9 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So the only indication we would get as homeowners of a power cut in the area would literally be that app, wouldn't it? Because otherwise we wouldn't even see a flicker.
You wouldn't know.
No. Cool. Anything else we need to know about that? Let's just stays as it is. Can we have a look inside?
Yeah, we can
Or
look
is it
inside.
all?
No,
It was all quite fancy.
It's behind.
And then it's all behind that screen now.
It's behind a cover. So in here, you've got at the top surge protection. So this protects from any surges coming into the property. This just controls some lights on the front. This is your grid connection. So this is just an isolator to be able to turn off what's coming in. The smart port we talked about earlier, we've got it off because we're not using it. Bypass is there as an emergency in case one of these contactors fails. You can bypass it, so you would stay on grid, but the whole functionality of this would be used. So that's why it's got this little lock to stop someone turning it on. Your backup is everything of your whole buildings covered through there. We've got two inverter ones, MCBs, because you can wire the inverters into here, but where yours are, we've wired them into another board, which is also doable with SIG.
Our inverters just talk to this just by a Cat6 cable.
6 cable. And then,
which made this a lot easier. At one point we were concerned that we had to run power cables all the way back to here, which is quite nice. That can be remote if your meter's nowhere near your panels. I guess that's the benefit.
Yeah, that is the benefit. As long as the cable supplying down there is big enough for the inverters to backfeed both ways, which yours already was because you oversized it when you put it in, which was handy because then we didn't have to run two cables from here, possibly 50 meters.
Oh, the big armored cables. Yeah,
you wouldn't have to do two more.
Yeah. Amazing. So that is the kind of brains behind it that we really don't ever need to think about. It's just there.
It's just there in the background.
So there you have it. I think we've covered certainly everything on the ground. We're not going to go up on the roof, but you've seen all that already. They're the two strings. Is that what we call them? Yeah, strings or the sections.
Yeah, they are individual strings. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our west-facing side, and then on the other side, we've basically got the same or similar number of panels, just as one block in the middle of the roof. They are bizarre. I mean, yes, we've got a bit of a dust layer on them now, but they do blend in really well. And actually, when you head down the field, they don't look, the old ones kind of stood out, didn't they? The bluey sort of colour.
Being all black as well, no silver frames, sort of makes it blend in.
Yeah. So really pleased with how they look, and hopefully David's answered all the questions that you would have fired straight at me. Is there anything else that we need to think about at this point?
I think we've covered most of it.
Done the battery side of it. We've done the gateway. We know we're covered if we lose power and Armageddon happens. And we've now got a fairly hands-off. We don't really need to do anything as far as servicing. No. It's just a case of monitoring it on the app.
The only thing to maybe watch is, because it is dusty, if the panels get a bit more of a haze and the next time it rains it doesn't wash it all off, it might be worth having like a soft brush just to take the haze off. It just gets that little bit more performance out of the panels. Yeah. They are self-cleaning, but
as much as it can be. Needs self-cleaning house on the inside, not on the outside. Nice. Okay, well, huge thank you to David, to Archie, to the whole team at 21 Degrees. It's been pretty seamless all the way through, and we just had this last little bit needed done today, so that's why I thought I'd grab him, answer a load of questions, or ask a load of questions, and we can see the job done. But anyway, thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.